Welcome to another episode of the Felicia Taylor Arts Legacy Series. We're glad you can join us. I'm your host, Bob Merrill. Throughout this series, we're putting the spotlight on some of our prominent cultural institutions in Palm Beach County. The program honors the legacy of longtime Palm Beach resident and supporter of the arts, Felicia Taylor. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Andrew Kato to the program, the producing artistic director of the Maltz Jupiter Theatre. Andrew Kato. Andrew, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thanks for coming in. Andrew, talk a little bit about the storied history of the Jupiter Theatre, starting in 1979 with Burt Reynolds.
Yes, and I was there as a young kid. I was there for 8 years. I was a waiter at the Burt Reynolds Dinner Theatre, which is fantastic because now I'm the head of the organization, and I'm probably the greatest repository of information about the building. So I was there at the very beginning. I saw it through to the end when he was bringing the biggest celebrities across the country into the building. And now I've had the great pleasure of helping to shape the future of the Maltz Jupiter Theatre through this magnificent 62,000 square foot building that we just completed over COVID.
Now, the Maltz Jupiter Theatre, who was Maltz? Was there a Mr. Maltz?
There is a Mr. Maltz, a Mr. and Mrs. Maltz, Milton and Tamar Maltz, just like acknowledging and thanking Burt Reynolds for putting the theater on the map. He talked about it on the Carson show. It was really Milton and Tamar Maltz, who's in the broadcasting business, both radio and TV, that really saved the theater from becoming a drugstore. They were going to tear the building down and build a drugstore, and how they kept that from happening was kind of a dream come true. And then the theater struggled for a year. They weren't able to find their audience, and I was invited by Mr. Maltz, Milton Maltz, to come back to Florida, and he said, "Do you want to come home again?" And initially in my mind, I was like, "Who wants to go home again?" Although I love Jupiter, I went to high school here. I love that, and I really saw an opportunity given the population, and also my memories of being at the Burt Reynolds Dinner Theatre when all of Palm Beach, this is prior to the Kravitz Center being built, would come down. It was like Dynasty with their beaded gowns, and Burt threw the best opening night parties. But going back to Milton and Tamar Maltz, they couldn't be more kind, more generous. Oh. Milton is the person who is the dreamer of this big idea, and his wife Tamar said, "This place is a cultural desert and I want you to do something about it." But we really need to thank Burt Reynolds, we need to thank Milton and Tamar Maltz, and we need to thank the audiences and the donors who told me 20 years ago that if we create consistent quality work, that they will show up. And we have become the largest regional theater in the lower half of the United States. We're doing great, solid work. We're a producing organization. We're creating the work that is being done on the stage. And we're growing. And so it's magnificent.
I love it. And, it's a case of build it and they will come. Right?
Indeed, yes. I love that.
Field of dreams, right?
It is indeed.
Well, now the main theater seats about over 600 people, right?
659, yes.
And you also have the Island Theater, which is a more intimate venue.
It is. It's brand new this season. We took it on so that we could tell different kinds of stories. On our main stage in our larger theater, we're doing fairly populous plays and musicals, things that people have seen on Broadway, such as our upcoming production of Frozen, Lehman Trilogy, and Guys and Dolls. But in the Island Theater, we're doing non-traditional work, such as the Close-Up Magic show that we'll be doing at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, we'll be producing Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which couldn't be any more dramatic.
That's not a kid's show.
It is not a kid's show. And then also a series of cabaret performances of both national, international, and local talent, which all falls into our mission statement to support our community, to create, to engage members of our community in the best way that art and culture does.
You also have marvelous children educational programs through the Golden Earth Conservatory, which is part of your umbrella.
It is, yes. We're teaching kids in after-school summer and weekend programs. Before COVID and before the building was done, we were serving about 600 students per week in class from tap to jazz, ballet, stage combat, acting, pretty much anything that you can think of in terms of learning. And it was 8-year-olds to 88-year-olds. Our education component is very much a huge part of our mission to educate, entertain, and inspire our community. And when we went into our strategic plan for our 10 years, which included the build out of the Maltz Jupiter Theatre to this magnificent new building, one of the plans was to double the size of what we're able to offer our kids. Kids without art just don't fare as well as kids who are able to learn the skills of how to communicate well with each other. It's like a team sport without playing a sport. It's the same collaboration.
And that has been scientifically proven.
It has,
There's multiple studies on that.
Our job, just to be good citizens of our community, is to make sure that we have the resources and the facilities and the opportunities for these kids to grow and grow in a way that is different from what people would think. It's not all about sports. There are kids there that are not going to be sports kids. They're going to be theater kids, and they're going to get the same kinds of skill sets out of that. And so our plan is to build out a remaining portion of our building. When we're able to do that, we can double the number of kids that we serve to 1,200 students a week. So what that'll look like is 4 studios, 2 piano studios, a lobby for them, a library, a work area, locker rooms. It's really a facility dedicated specifically for educating kids in the arts.
Now, I just was at the theater a few weeks ago for a wonderful production of Once, which was a hit on Broadway, and it was a marvelous production.
In our version, Gene Kim is the set designer. It takes place in a beautiful, somewhat truncated set. It divides the stage in half to make the space completely intimate, and it was such a beautiful rendering of the show. It requires the audience to go on a journey of 2 people who are falling in love through music, and the other actors who all play instruments, so they're quadruple threats.
Right, I love
that. They play musical instruments, they act, sing, and dance, which is unusual for a musical. And they just did such a great job. I mean, the audiences loved the production so much. The theater is known, and most regional theaters across the country are known as producing organizations. So every detail that you see on the stage is created by us. We have a 15,000 square foot production center where we build our sets. Our costumes are built in the brand new facility.
And coming up, opening January 7th, just in a few days, is Disney's Frozen, right?
Yeah, we're one of the few companies that Disney licensing approached. We're one of 8 that they approached to do the show originally. We bring 100 visiting artists from across the country to the Maltz Jupiter Theatre over a 3-week rehearsal process. The sets are being built. It's a lot of activity within our building, and then we launch the production. And very satisfying, because at any time you could have rehearsals going on at the same time as a production, as the same time as technical rehearsals happening in the Island Theater. At the same time, you have our Goldner Conservatory, where we serve kids in after-school and summer programs. So the building is a flurry of activity at any given time.
Now, I am looking forward to seeing the show that you mentioned earlier, the Lehman Trilogy. I missed it on Broadway, and it won the Tony. And I think it's opening on my birthday, February 16th through March 2nd.
Yeah, 2-week run with that. And I love that we're producing Lehman Trilogy because, as you said, so many people missed it. It was right at the tail end of COVID. People were still nervous about going into the theater. They were wearing masks. But this play, which spans a century of the creation of the stock market all the way up through the downfall of the Lehman Brothers in 2008, is done on a Shakespearean level. It is such a brilliant play, especially for people who love business. So we're getting a lot of support because our supporters, our ticket goers are of that ilk. They worked on Wall Street. They know the story very well, and to see that come to life in front of you on stage is fantastic. And then we're moving into Guys and Dolls, which is considered by many to be the best written musical of all time.
Frank Lesser's masterpiece.
It truly is.
And then Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is coming in
April 22nd through May 4th. We are going into the smaller, intimate Island Theater, 198 seats. So you have all of that energy of these two couples infused with alcohol. The power that comes out of that storytelling is going to be immeasurable. We're going to be able to barely keep the roof off. It's going to be very exciting. And we don't get to do dramas on that level in our larger space. So what a great way to end the season.
Now, this year's gala, I believe it's on February 8th. It's a fundraiser. And I think after 20 years of service, you are being honored.
I am. I'm being honored with my partner. We've both been with the theater for 20 years. And it really is an honor to be honored, but we do it because we want to bring attention to the theater.
Well, now let's make sure that we have the website correct. It is jupitertheatre.org,
and you can literally learn about everything that we do by going online at jupitertheatre.org.
Well, Andrew Kato, thanks for coming in. This has been a delight. You are a dynamic visionary, my friend, of one of our community's most revered cultural institutions.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I always am willing to speak about the importance of art and culture in our community, and it's been a great pleasure being with you here today.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this unique programming, please share it with a friend or a neighbor who would like to learn more. And you can watch anytime at palmbeachcivic.org. Until next time, thanks for watching.